showdowns with shallow water sharks.
Could have swallowed half of my body with no problem.
Battling air-breathing jungle monsters.
Just enormous, isn't it? I don't think I've ever touched a fish or seen a fish that big.
Reeling titanic tuna with barracuda teeth.
They can cut through the skin and even through the backbone.
That's a fat one, boy.
And wrestling powerful titans of the deep.
It truly was. It was Moby Dick.
For science, sport, and food, it's the most extreme encounters in our eternal quest for hooked monster fish. Colossal underwater Goliath. They grow to fantastic size and swim with astounding speed. When these leviathans move in, other fish move away. And just when we think we've seen the biggest there is, another monster fish blows it out of the water. To those who encounter them face to face, they are extraordinary, the ultimate challenges of man versus beast.
There's 30,000 species out there in the world, if you take all of them combined. And the biggest ones are really the ones that really grab your imagination. If you're a little bit intimidated because they're bigger than you, and any animal that's bigger than you that's wild is something to be taken seriously.
Among the world's wildest whoppers, these tough predators combine traits of 3 monster species into one, the dogtooth tuna. Born with bodies like tuna, they have mouths like barracuda and can kill like sharks.
Just imagine the body of a yellowfin tuna with the head of a barracuda stuck on the front end. It's a pretty weird combination to have that head stuck on the body of that super athlete.
One asset to growing huge, these reef-dwelling behemoths have jaws out of a horror movie. Despite their strong tuna resemblance, dogtooth are actually fierce bonitos. Unlike most tuna who have smaller sized teeth, dogtooth sport a mouthful of more than 50 serrated weapons. They even have additional teeth on the surface of their tongues. Dogtooth slice into prey like sharks.
It's got big gnarly teeth coming out of its mouth, and so it's really an impressive sight to see one of these guys cruising the edge of a reef. They can pierce right through the skin of its prey and then cut through the skin and even through the backbone of that prey.
And dogtooth continue to break the typical tuna mold. Unlike their tuna cousins, dogtooth are unable to keep their body temperatures warmer than the water around them. As a result, they keep to tropical regions. But these cold-blooded fish are no pushovers. Unlike many tuna who swim in protective schools and avoid apex predators, these lone hunters will actually swim with sharks.
They're able to move incredibly fast when they need to. And so they sort of are able to feed a niche that's just a little bit different from the ones that reef sharks use.
Experienced anglers know dogtooth may be easy to meet in shallow waters, but their super size and terrorizing teeth make them one of the toughest fish to conquer.
The dogtooth fights deep and hard. You know, it's a completely different style of fishing, physically more demanding.
October 25, 2007, the Coral Sea near Australia. New Zealand boat builder Brian Harkin is on a 4-day expedition testing out a new advanced technology fishing boat. It's his first ever mission hunting dogtooth tuna. Joining Brian are some fishing buddies and a favorite guide, New Zealand fishing celebrity Matt Watson, who's filming the trip for a local broadcast.
Sweet ass.
They're planning to fish with some high-tech help below decks. Submersible video cameras drag behind the boat, attached by an umbilical cable, feeding images to onboard monitors. The cameras signal when a monster's approaching.
Not only can we catch some big dogtooth tuna on rod and reel, but we can catch them on film.
Everyone keeps close watch. But no amount of technology guarantees a whopper catch. The crew hatches a strategy. They head directly to some coral reefs where dogtooth swarm. The goal is to drop bait at the reef's edge and move out into deeper water, luring the doggies away from the reef's protective cover. But after 3 frustrating days, they've yet to land a Goliath. Just before giving up, they head to an area crowded with birds, sure sign of prey swimming underneath. Brian takes a last try, hoping for a monster.
There was a lot of anticipation passing through that reef, just the bird life, knowing that the fish were there. It was on.
Suddenly, there's a yell from Matt. Cameras show 2 giant dogtooth rocketing toward the bait, cutting through the water like torpedoes.
Yeah, on the left, a big one on the left. Okay, coming on the right and on the left. Okay, there's still a fish on the right.
They've got a big tail, and when they dig it in, it's like a big propeller. It just develops a lot of thrust.
The water erupts as the 2 frenzied fish chomp onto the bait.
He's on the right. Yeah, he's got it. He's got it. Oh!
They take off at a sprint. Brian takes hold of one rod while another angler grabs the second. The 2 men stand almost side by side. Brian's got to keep his line taut, keeping the fish from shaking the hook. But it's risky, too tight, and the line could snap.
Oh, here we go again. Oh.
Suddenly, Brian's massive dogtooth takes off at a dead sprint, almost pulling him overboard. At the same moment, the other angler's line goes slack. With a pull, he reels in half a fish.
Known as the shortened variety dogtooth tuna. It's looked like it would have been a fairly nice fish. You would have been looking at about 30 kilo there, Rob. But instead you got one about 20 kilo.
The anglers aren't the only ones who want a whopper. Below the water, they're battling hungry sharks.
The shark's eating the doggy.
After seeing Robbie's fish come up eaten by a shark, I was, quite anxious about my fish not getting sharked.
Brian's exhausted and losing strength. But he's determined to defeat the dogtooth before the shark beats him to it. With a back-breaking pull, Brian gets the monster fish to the boat at last.
Oh, nice. Oh, nice. There you go, here, mate. No problem. In the mouth there, mate. Sweet, got him. Yeah. Woohoo! Woohoo! That's a fat one, boy.
It's a Goliath.
That's a fat sucker, man. That's a beast.
Brian catches his breath as the crew struggles to haul the mammoth beast on board. Even these seasoned pros are amazed. Matt and crew estimate the dogtooth at over 1.5 meters long and almost 70 kilos.
That is a beast. Look at that. Oh, go on, give it a kiss, Brian. Give it a kiss. Oh, there you go.
But the battle isn't over. Wasting no time, the team wants to get the dogtooth back in the water for a safe release. But there's a problem. The fish's swim bladder, an air-filled internal organ that regulates buoyancy, is overinflated. During the struggle to bring the fish to the surface, the sharp drop in pressure made the bladder expand. Now, with so much trapped oxygen, the dogtooth can't submerge. There's only one solution: emergency surgery. Matt hauls the fish back on board.
Could be a problem with his swim bladder, and just in around about here.
He cuts a small hole in the swim bladder to let air escape. If all goes well, the minor injury will heal, and the dogtooth can continue to thrive.
We'll try and give him a shunt, eh? Okay, let's get ready. Ready? Probably ready. Go.
Success. Matt's on-the-spot surgery helps the Whopper underwater. The fish swims off, safe.
Yeah. All right, it worked.
I was absolutely stoked when that happened. I've never seen it done on a fish of that size. That fishing trip and catching that dogtooth tuna was definitely the highlight of my fishing life.
Fortunately for dogtooth species survival, their lone hunting instincts make them difficult to net in large numbers. This protects them from overfishing, but these toothsome predators face a different threat: their habitat. As sea temperatures rise, coral reefs, the dogtooth's fertile feeding grounds, are dying off in a dangerous phenomenon called coral bleaching.
Coral bleaching is caused by subtle increases in water temperature that stress the coral and cause it to expel the algae that live in its tissue. And that stresses the animal and usually causes the coral to eventually die.
Around the world, coral reefs are under constant assault, and reef poachers have turned to a dangerous and destructive fishing technique: blasting. Blast fishing uses crude explosives like dynamite to literally blast fish to the surface. Blasting brings in big hauls for struggling fishermen, but it decimates the habitat. Recently, governments have begun rallying to stop dynamite blasting and other damaging methods, bringing hope for the dogtooths and the coral reef's future. Among the world's mightiest monster fish, these apex predators eat their own kind. Colossal cannibals with an even scarier taste for shallow waters where humans dare to tread. The lemon shark.
It's a big shark that lives in coastal waters, so it comes in contact with humans quite often.
Tropical lemon sharks reach Whopper sizes. Record setters have stretched almost 3.5 meters, weighing nearly a quarter ton. Powerful hunting and feeding instincts help these titans grow huge. And lemons are born to kill. Unlike most ocean dwellers whose start life as eggs, a newborn lemon shark begins as a 60-centimeter-long eating machine, driven to grow or risk being eaten by bigger sharks, including their own mother. Lemon sharks are such aggressive feeders, they'll cannibalize their own kind.
Any shark, whether it's his mother or not, beginning a few minutes after his birth, is probably a threat to him.
But it's their favored hunting and spawning grounds that bring them face to face with us. Lemons gravitate to shallow shore waters.
Lemon sharks are a coastal species. They move up and down the shoreline, and they love these shallow inshore habitats that are just filled with marine life.
When provoked, lemons fiercely defend their shoreline hunting grounds. For any fisherman who dares to take them on, a lemon shark is a dangerous and formidable foe.
This thing could have definitely eaten half of me. Could have swallowed half of my body with no problem.
March 7th, 2006, the Atlantic Ocean off Key West, Florida. Experienced angler Martin Orostegui sets out with his longtime fishing guide, Captain Ralph Delph. Their goal? Land a Leviathan shark. But the two fishermen are committed to more than just a catch. They believe in the art of a safe release. Ralph's designed a unique onboard holding pen called a live well, built directly into the hull of his boat. The special well allows Martin to catch and carry a shark safely to shore while keeping it in the water. Once the sportsman registers his catch, he can release the animal back into the wild.
We love to fish for them, but we release them alive.
Coast Guard Regulation Orange.
Martin has hundreds of world records under his belt, but today he wants to up the ante with a bold and risky strategy, using lightweight fly fishing gear to catch big sharks. Few anglers even attempt it.
I fish with light line because I love the challenge.
Martin keeps watch in the 9-meter boat.
Hopefully we'll get a couple of fish come up.
Suddenly, a dark shape shoots through the water. Martin knows from experience it's a shark, and it's headed straight towards him.
The shark was about 300 feet from the boat, and he was swimming very hard towards the front of the boat where I was waiting for him.
Okay, here it comes.
Martin has no idea of the size of the beast below. He casts his fly. As the fly hits the water, the shark lunges forward. The angler can't believe his eyes. It's a gigantic lemon shark, the biggest Martin's ever seen. Grabbing the hook, swimming away at breakneck speed.
The shark started swimming really hard because it felt the hook and pulled a lot of line out. So we had to immediately follow the shark.
Martin struggles to keep the enormous predator hooked while Captain Ralph moves the boat for better leverage. But the longer the lemon stays hooked, the more the catch is in danger. In the battle of shark versus fly fishing line, a shark has a major advantage: its skin.
The skin of the shark is like sandpaper. They rub against the monofilament line that you need for fly fishing. Many times what happens is the shark rubs the monofilament line and breaks it.
Martin prays the line will hold.
What do you think? That's good. That's good pressure.
Man and beast lock in a dead heat for nearly an hour.
It was a very hard fight. The fish swam very fast and very hard.
The angler's losing strength fast. He's worried he can't hold the catch much longer. But the Whopper shark starts to tire.
Yeah, turn around.
Martin manages to reel it closer to the boat, where he sees the monster's true size.
This thing could have definitely eaten half of me. The mouth of the shark could have swallowed half of my body with no problem.
Now they've got a dangerous job, getting an agitated shark on board. Working fast, Martin and Captain Ralph lasso the lemon shark's tail.
Okay, hurry!
The beast goes into a frenzy.
The fish swung around 2 times. On the 3rd time, it actually did it very hard and attempted to attack the engine.
With a final struggle, the men get the shark lashed to the boat. But the battle's far from over. It's too big to hoist. Unable to haul the Goliath up alone, the men call a nearby fishing boat for help. But even with assistance, manhandling a shark is high risk.
It's dangerous because we have to grab the shark and pull him up where we are face to face with the animal.
Up, guys, up.
At last, they've got it. The men manage to pull in the lemon shark safely. But time is ticking. With the Whopper shark in the boat's live holding well, the men race 32 kilometers back to shore to weigh it safely without causing it harm.
It's coming.
On shore, the stats are staggering. 2¼ meters long. An incredible 175 kilos, a world record, the largest fish caught on a fly fishing rod ever. Martin releases the mammoth record setter back into the ocean. Mission accomplished.
We were able to catch a huge shark that was a world record and then release it alive. Releasing the fish alive was, in my opinion, the greatest of the accomplishments.
But for biologists, studying wild giant fish like the lemon shark is an ongoing challenge. The bigger the fish, the tougher it is to keep the animals safe and healthy in captivity.
With a normal fish, you bring them into the laboratory, you put them in an aquarium, and you can do all sorts of experimentation with them. How do you do that with a 12-foot-long fish?
Ironically, the lemon shark's attraction to shallow waters may be one of its biggest conservation assets. Scientists are finding ways to study the lemon shark in its natural habitat. Bahamas Bimini Station is leading the way, practicing the art of shark corralling.
They'll hold them in a big pen, so they're actually in the ocean, but they're sort of isolated and not allowed to get back out into the wild. And inside that sort of semi-captive situation, they're able to do experiments with lemon sharks that are useful for learning about aspects of their physiology and their natural history that they're not able to get from simply making observations of animals in the wild.
It's a critical step toward understanding and protecting some of the most astounding alpha predators on the planet. An air-breathing swamp monster, armored and dangerous. In the world of whoppers, these prehistoric predators get so big they can survive almost anything. The Arapaima.
It's this bizarre dinosaur-like, long, skinny fish that reaches body sizes that sort of really defy belief.
Monster Arapaima are native to South America, but in the last century, anglers introduced them to tropical Thailand. Here, with no natural predators, they're eating their fill, growing from tiny to gargantuan, reaching nearly 2.5 meters long and weighing over 180 kilos.
And there may not even be in Thailand any other animal that they're competing with that's anywhere near that sort of body size that they achieve.
Arapaima boasts two major advantages to getting big. First, they're armor-plated behemoths, protected from predators with a suit of scales made from tough collagen and calcium.
A very large Arapaima has scales on the side of its body that may be 3 or 4 inches across. And that results in a very sort of bizarre appearance.
And second, this fighting fish breathes air, surfacing every 10 to 20 minutes using an air bladder that works like a lung. In droughts, when other fish die in oxygen-depleted waters, the Arapaima can thrive in shallow swamps, breathing air from above. Surviving such extremes helps these monster fish keep growing from season to season.
Arapaimas have developed over evolutionary time this sort of dual strategy in respiration where they use their lungs to absorb oxygen, but they use their gills to unload carbon dioxide and to excrete certain kinds of waste. They have a very specialized respiratory system that allows them to live in relatively poorly oxygenated water in these shallow water habitats that they do so well in.
And like their cousins, the arowana, some witnesses claim Arapaima can even take to the air. Legends describe Arapaima making stunning athletic leaps to ambush prey and feed an insatiable hunger.
They're able to feed on almost every other fish and a lot of the other vertebrates that get into that habitat, the snakes, the lizards, mammals, the birds that are on the surface. So by becoming so big, they're able to eat just about everything else.
I've heard the stories that they'll jump 2 meters to take a monkey out of a tree.
One thing's certain, for anglers, wrestling an Arapaima is an extreme test of endurance, the conquest of a career.
It's quite hard to catch in the wild. For most anglers, it certainly is, the dream fish.
October 16th, 2007, Thailand's Krabi province. British fisherman Keith Purton is enjoying a 7-day fishing vacation. He's come to Stuart Gillam's fishing resort, one of Thailand's best places to find megafish. This morning, Keith is up at sunrise, casting bait into the resort's 3.5-hectare lake, joined by seasoned father and son team, Stuart and Sean Gillam.
1 meter.
A few hours brings in some good-sized catches, but Keith has no idea a whopper lies in wait. Like a jolt of electricity, the angler braces himself against a sudden, powerful pull, peeling off meters of line in seconds.
It powered off down the lake that way, and really there wasn't much we could do to stop it.
Underwater, it's a monster Arapaima. It's so strong, Keith has to fight his instinct to yank back his reel. If he pulls too hard on the line, it could snap.
Ended up having to follow it down the lake because there was no way that I could try to turn it. It was just going so quickly and so powerfully. Jesus! Stop! There's not really a great deal you can do apart from to hang on. I was hoping it would stop eventually.
As hard as he tries, Keith has met his match. Each time he reels the fish closer to shore, it takes off again for deeper water.
A stalemate here. Oh, no, maybe not.
And it gets worse. 30 minutes into the fight, everything stops. In the middle of the lake, either the line or the fish is stuck in the mud. Keith worries the longer the air-breathing fish stays under, the greater its danger of suffocation.
There's still something under it. Yeah. I think what he's done is gone down behind the back of the float.
We didn't want to kill the fish by it, entangling itself and getting stuck down there, because they do have to come up for air.
Fishing guide Sean Gillum takes charge. He jumps into the lake and heads out to the tangled brush, pulling up the line, hoping to free the fish by hand.
Luckily, as soon as he started giving it a few gentle tugs, the fish decided to move again.
Success. Once again, the giant fish is on the move, swimming fast. Now it's Keith's job to end the showdown. But the exhausted angler's almost at the breaking point. At last, after a 40-minute tug of war, Keith gets the behemoth to shore. It's a flipping, twisting Arapaima Whopper caught. But there's a danger. The fighting fish's long body is vulnerable to a life-threatening injury.
He's got a big blood vessel runs down his back. If you bend this blood vessel the wrong way, it snaps, he bleeds to death.
Thankfully, experienced resort owner Stuart Gillum and his crew are prepared, standing by with a specially designed net cage that keeps the fish in safe alignment.
Yes! Yes! There was a big cheer or a big cry of yes. It was quite a relief to see it actually go into the net.
3 men can barely lift it for a fast photo. An estimated 190 centimeters long, 90 centimeters around, and roughly 150 kilos. Stuart gauges the Arapaima is larger than any caught on record.
Right, that's it, that's all I'm doing.
Okay. Good, thank you, guys.
Keith and crew release the giant back to deep water, safe, alive, and ready to grow even bigger.
It's enormous, isn't it? I don't think I've ever touched a fish or seen a fish that big. It's really incredible.
But Keith's Arapaima may soon be among the last on Earth. While their introduction to Thailand could turn them into a dangerous invasive species here, the reality is Arapaima may become extinct everywhere else.
Arapaima is a threatened species. In its native habitat, populations are way down below anything that would be considered satisfactory.
In their Brazilian homeland, this top-level predator is a popular, highly fished food, and they're fast losing their habitat to development.
The biggest two threats to the Arapaima populations today are the same thing that threatens so many big fish. Number one, commercial fishing. They're big, meaty animals. You can't blame people for wanting to eat them. There's a lot of dinner on an Arapaima. The degradation of the Amazon ecosystem and all the habitats surrounding it, once that habitat's gone, if it goes, there can't possibly be any Arapaimas in that habitat.
In such cases of increasingly threatened big fish, biologists may have to intervene to repopulate the species, turning to adopted man-made habitats or creating captive breeding programs in controlled environments.
Arapaima are unusual because they really can be bred in captivity or in relatively close circumstances. For such a big fish, it can happen. And so they really do have the potential for captive breeding to make an important contribution to wild populations.
Ongoing efforts to save native Arapaima habitats may help prevent the worst-case scenario of forced captive breeding and allow anglers to challenge and covet these astounding animals for years to come.
I think for many anglers, particularly anglers who travel internationally, the Arapaima must be the prize species that most anglers aspire to.
Ghostly, shimmering, powerful. The tarpon, among the world's mammoth monster fish, These ocean hunters have a killer asset: night vision.
Big and silvery. There's just really nothing like it. Big silver scales on the side of the animal with a huge eye up in the head.
Called the Silver King, this shiny Atlantic beast can reach almost 2.5 meters long and weigh over 150 kilos. Tarpon are so well adapted to grow and thrive, they remain relatively unchanged since the time of the dinosaurs.
The fossil record of tarpons goes back a long way. We think we have fossils of tarpons that are 100 million years old.
For millennia, tarpon growth has come down to survival of the fittest. Females spawn millions of eggs each year. Only a fraction make it to adulthood. But those super specimens that do survive are built to last. Living for 50 years or more, feeding and growing to mammoth proportions with few natural enemies.
It's always body size as your ticket to protection. Being big allows them to escape the threats of predators, and it lets them move into the open water where they can hunt for bigger prey.
One boost to their big size: the tarpon is a night stalker, born with nature's answer to infrared technology. This unusual ability is thanks to enormous eyes that work like highly sensitive light absorbers. Giant lenses capture every luminescent particle in the water, maximizing reflections, isolating moving shapes, helping tarpon home in on prey. In deep waters, it's a huge seeing and stalking advantage, allowing tarpon to snag fish other predators miss, ambushing a meal with ease.
It allows them to be very sensitive in low light conditions. So even at night, when it's dark enough that we effectively can't see, tarpon can actually see quite well, and they can hunt at night and catch fish that don't even see them coming.
To fishermen, tarpon are extraordinary prize fighters, one of the ocean's toughest opponents.
Sweet, yeah, look at that.
It carries a worldwide reputation of the king of all sport fish. They're so incredible, fighting fish.
August 9th, 1992, the Gulf of Mexico near Galveston, Texas. Teenage angler Robert Lord Jr. is out with an afternoon fishing expedition. Their guide, Captain Mike Williams, one of the Gulf's most experienced tarpon fishermen.
He knows the fish really well. He knows their patterns. He's a tarpon genius.
The boat drifts offshore for 2 hours under the blistering Texas sun. Waiting for a bite, Robert works to remove a messy tangle from a fishing reel.
A lot of anglers call it a bird's nest, and it's just a mess of fishing line, and you have to pick it apart with your fingers.
Suddenly, a shimmering underwater surge shoots past the boat. It's huge.
I thought this was, Jaws or something. In my 14-year-old brain, I was thinking, okay, this was a gigantic white flash. It seemed like it was as big as the boat. It must be a great white shark.
Hey, that's a big fish right there.
Feeling a tug, Robert races to untangle the line.
Got my fingers all intertwined in the fishing line, and if it starts pulling line off, it could have ripped off a finger.
But before he gets far, the fish bites hard into the hook and tears off.
Oh man, I got one!
Just in time, Robert manages to free his hand. The line spools out quickly and cleanly.
Get that rod down! Just let him go!
But as the fish bucks and pulls, the young angler braces for the fight of his life.
I was just, having a huge adrenaline rush, and my heart was just thumping.
Watch that line. Make sure you reel that line up even.
Trying to shake the hook, the tarpon leaps high above the water.
There he is. Woo! Big boy. See how thick that fish is?
Airborne, it's even bigger than anyone imagined.
That's the biggest fish I've seen all year right there, buddy.
Everyone's just shocked, because even at this long distance, you can tell it's just a, once in a lifetime thing to see something like this.
The tarpon seems to get stronger with each leap. The battle's on.
Don't stop him, let him go, let him go. Okay, Robert, it's coming up. It's coming up, coming up. It's big, big, big.
I was just super nervous that I was gonna lose it.
Yeah, he's had this fish on 1 hour.
Every time it jumps out of the water and shakes its head, you think it's gonna spit the hook out.
After a muscle-burning 90 minutes, the fish shows no signs of giving up.
Keep that rod down.
The tug-of-war pushes Robert to the edge of his stamina and strength.
My biceps felt like they were completely on fire. Every time you think you've got it pretty close to the boat, it's just gonna take off again and rip off more line. You're getting more and more tired, and it just doesn't seem like the fish is.
Oh, God. My knees. Just hang on what you got.
Robert refuses to give in to dangerous fatigue. He knows if he relaxes for a moment, he could end up in the water.
I was probably 145 pounds, so, you know, if I had, you know, mishandled the rod or done something wrong, it definitely could have pulled me over.
He was screaming, he was yelling. I mean, he was pumped up, and he never broke. The kid did an outstanding job fighting that fish, as good as any man I've ever had on my boat, professionals included.
Just take your time. You got him now. You got him.
At last, the tired tarpon slows down. Working fast, Captain Mike maneuvers the boat to bring the fish alongside. Robert gives a massive pull. They've got it. The fishermen can't believe its size.
You see something that's over twice as big as what you're expecting, and you don't really even know what to make of it. It's almost weird looking. It's so huge.
But to measure it, they still have to get it safely to the boat's edge. Captain Mike takes charge. He gaffs the tarpon carefully. Done right, it'll keep the fish in place without causing serious harm. Getting it on board's a mission impossible.
God, how are you going to get him in the boat?
To further protect the tarpon, the crew measures the giant without lifting it out of the water.
Look how thick that thing is. Jeez.
Up close at last, it's massive, an incredible 113 centimeters around and more than 2 meters long. Using a standard sport fishing weight formula, Captain Mike estimates the fish at 97.5 kilos. If he's correct, it makes it the largest tarpon ever caught off the coast of Texas.
As we're calculating this thing on the boat, it's just like, you know, oh my gosh, we've got something that's, you know, bigger than anything anyone else has ever caught here.
Releasing the gaff, the mammoth tarpon swims safely away.
He's gone. Awesome. Thank you, man.
Catch a fish of that quality, it truly was. It was Moby Dick.
This is the most impressive fish I'm ever going to catch in my entire lifetime.
Tarpon anglers hope for more record catches, but most recognize this trophy fish may be in trouble. And so is the tarpon's wetland nesting ground. Wetlands are areas where water covers soil or rises close to the soil's surface. In places like Galveston, Texas, rapid development decimates more wetlands each year. Fishermen see the loss firsthand. Even half a century ago, tarpon were abundant.
There was a time where it didn't make any difference because there was so many of them. They were like buffalo, but it ain't like that no more. And if something's not done to protect them, they won't be any.
Across the country, hundreds of wetland fish species are threatened. But efforts by the U.S. Geological Survey and others to conserve wetlands may help. Reflooding, replanting, and rerouting swamp waters could restore a vanishing habitat.
There's a lot of interest now in the conservation and management of swamps and those kinds of nearshore habitats, and that doesn't just help the tarpon, it helps all the other animals that live in those habitats.
For tarpon fishing, catch and release is enforced with strict quotas, restrictions, and limited licensing. Most anglers support this effort, doing their part to save big fish for future generations.
I actually think that they're a management success story because they're one of the first species that fishermen very actively got involved in the conservation.
In the worlds of monster fish, they're fabled and feared killers. Massive, armed with whiskers that work like a secret weapon, the Paraíba.
Think of a Volkswagen with gigantic 3-foot-long whiskers coming out of its face.
They're colossal kings of the Amazon. In Brazil, they're known as motherfish. Paraíba are one of the largest catfish on Earth, with record breakers stretching over 3.5 meters long, weighing a scale-busting 200 kilograms. There's no bigger catfish in the Amazon basin. Here, Paraíba rule the deep, feeding with intimidating strength and speed.
Paraíba are dominant predators in these big, deep canals in the larger parts of the Amazon River. In order to be able to handle the currents, they've got to be big, powerful swimmers.
In addition to strong muscle, Paraíba are stealth hunters, armed with a sensory arsenal. 90-centimeter-long whiskers covered with taste buds. Paraíba taste buds are so sensitive they work like homing devices, picking up traces of prey in the water, helping Paraíba to hunt blind and grow bigger with each meal.
Basically, it's like a taste radar that's being held out into the water that's flowing over its head that really allows the catfish to sample taste in a sort of wide range in front of it. They'll move in the murky water where other animals who may be depending on vision are at a disadvantage, and the Paraíba doesn't need to be able to see to find its prey.
It all adds up to a Whopper fish with a killer advantage. Catching giant Paraíba is an adrenaline rush if the angler's up for the fight.
Anyone who likes a challenge would get a big thrill hooking these brutes of Brazil.
July 2006, Brazil's Amazon River Basin. Pro fisherman Jair Rigotti has an obsession, hooking a giant Paraíba. But Amazon Whoppers don't come easy. For 4 days, Jair, his guide, and a friend wait for a bite, with no luck. Jair's about to give up. He decides to drop one last baitfish into one of the narrowest parts of the river, a popular Paraíba hunting ground. Suddenly, Jair feels a strong tug on the line. He knows from experience, it's a giant.
When I felt the fish bite, I said, "It's her! It's her!"
Jair braces himself against the leviathan below, but the fish fights even harder. The fishing reel lets off line in a rush.
Olha que briga! Que corrida! Uma disparada.
It took off like a shot. Line was running out, and we were racing to keep up with the fish, who took out nearly 150 meters of line.
As seen in this video, the powerful Paraíba's so strong, it drags Jair's boat downriver. Jair does his best to hang on.
It was very difficult. The line was running out. I was trying to hold on, but he was pulling the boat, so we had to turn the motor on just to keep up with the fish. It was a very hard fight.
Suddenly, the Whopper tries a new strategy. It dives down to the river bottom, hiding among dead trees and branches. The fish won't budge. Jair's helpless. His line's too light, and the fish is too heavy to haul it up to the surface.
I said, "My God, if I can't pull it out, I'm going to lose it."
The angler gets a novel idea. noise.
Vai, gente.
He asks nearby boats to make a racket, hoping it'll spook the fish.
I said, come on, get in front of the branches. Hit your boats. Rev your engines. Hit your boats with your feet.
The noisy plan works. Within minutes, the spooked Piraiba's back on the move. As the tug-of-war wears on, Jair's becoming increasingly exhausted. But he's now a star attraction. As a crowd roots him on, everyone wants to see what's underwater. Jair doesn't dare quit. Yet the fish is just as determined, diving down once again, tangling up Jair's line in the branches below.
Aqui tá tudo enformigado, eu não sinto nada. Ai.
At the breaking point, Jair tries a final plan. Risky fishing pole surgery. He reaches past the tangle using a second rod to pull up the free end of the fishing line. A fellow angler grabs the line tightly, cuts it free, and ties it to a new rod.
This was the most critical moment for me.
Enrola a linha aí. Ou eu não consigo.
If I hadn't caught the line with the other rod, it would have gotten away for sure.
Success. With the new mended line in place, Jair channels his strength into the final fight. Last, after 2 excruciating hours, he gets the fish to the surface.
É o monstrão! É o monstrão! É o monstrão! Vem! Vem pra cá!
It's massive. A giant Piraiba caught. The guide ties a rope knot around the beast's tail.
Passa o laço que você vai ser vencida! Passa! 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 Ela tá aqui! Outro monstro, pessoal! Ai.
The crew pulls the fish to shore.
Ai.
The monster measures over 2 meters long, with an estimated weight of more than 120 kilos.
Maior do que eu?
It was bigger than me, bigger than a motorcycle. Almost the size of the boat.
Jair releases the Whopper. Diving in after it, he watches it swim away. The battle of a lifetime won.
I thanked everyone that helped me because together we managed to catch the fish. I couldn't have done it alone.
But as their native habitat is threatened, big fish like Piraiba need big river ecosystems to feed, breed, and grow. For Piraiba and other giants, the Amazon is paradise, with as many as 2,000 fish species and ample hectarage to roam.
Well, these big fish that live in the Amazon, like the Piraiba, they need that special habitat that they live in. The Piraiba need huge canals. They need the entire ecosystem in order to play out their whole life.
Yet while whoppers dominate these waters, humans control everything else, including dams. Hydroelectric dams produce about 90% of Brazil's power. Advocates argue dams help to protect native species, making them easier to monitor and manage. But opponents say these energy powerhouses can have a devastating effect on local fish species who need the untamed river system to breed and grow. One thing's clear. The raging debate signifies the importance of safeguarding the survival of Piraiba and other endangered river giants.
Well, if we don't protect the Piraiba, we're going to lose one of the most fabulous, one of the most spectacular fishes in the world.
Titans of the deep. We're awed by their speed, size, and strength, and take them on in battles of man versus beast. But whether for sport, science, or food, our encounters with these extraordinary animals must help us understand and protect them, ensuring our planet's waters are forever ruled by these monster fish. Prehistoric ocean Goliaths.
It's like hooking on to a freight train.
Mammoth river beasts.
Like a goldfish on steroids.
Fighting flying whoppers.
This fish erupts right next to me, and I'm thinking, how close is it? I can get speared or skewered.
And one of the scariest alpha predators on Earth.
Holy man, look at this.
The shark went crazy, and there was just no way we were going to hold on to the rope. You were just going to be dragged overboard.
For science, sport, and food, it's the most extreme encounters in our eternal quest for hooked monster fish. Titanic beasts that defy the imagination. Mysterious and mammoth, they rule the underwater depths. Fearsome kings of the food chain, they have almost no natural enemies. And many are almost limitless in their capacity to get even bigger. To encounter these Goliaths face to face, we must meet them on their turf, in the ultimate showdowns of man versus Whopper. They're notorious alpha predators, colossal killers, majestic, mysterious, and smarter than we think. The great white shark.
The history, the danger, the whole Jaws phenomenon. But I think the other thing that really have gotten people interested is that they're starting to learn more about them, and they're finding that they're really fascinating animals.
Great whites are the largest predatory fish on the planet. Females typically outsize males. Record great whites have stretched longer than 6 meters, weighing nearly 2 metric tons. Only killer whales can take them in a fight.
So white sharks are like those NFL linebackers, really powerful, really buff, very, very fast. When you get to be that big, you can bite first and ask questions later.
Great whites can devour over 13 kilos of flesh at a time, the equivalent of over 60 hamburgers in a single meal.
Their jaws detach from their skull, and they can project those forward, grab something, and then they twist, and that's quite often how they separate a chunk of flesh.
But their teeth are the real killers. Great whites toss and shake their victims, sawing into flesh with 3,000 razor-sharp protrusions. In the shredding, slicing bite of a great white shark, few prey stand a chance. And put together, jaw and teeth are a lethal combination. To gauge total bite pressure, biologists use a device called a gnathodynamometer. It measures force in kilos per square centimeter. One shark tooth can exert almost 60 kilos of pressure. Multiply that by the total bite surface area, and you get over 2.5 metric tons of pressure potential. For anyone who dares to take one on, catching a great white's only half the battle. But when anglers catch one with a hand line, surviving the encounter is the ultimate challenge.
Just their sheer presence. When you're there with a great white shark just meters away, you know that you're with the king of the ocean.
March 2007, Chatham Islands, New Zealand. Two experienced sport fishermen, Matt Watson and Peter Jackson, are on a dangerous assignment. Working for the Department of Conservation, they plan to get a live DNA sample of a great white shark.
It's a way of mapping their migrations, their movements, their growth rates, and also what genetic families they're from, because not a lot's known about them and they travel such vast distances.
The mission's simple, but extremely risky. Using rod and reel, the anglers intend to catch a great white, pull it to the boat, and clip a tissue sample from a fin. But to do it, they have to get up close to one of the most terrifying creatures on Earth.
They are respected and feared. I mean, they are something that are just so much more powerful than what we are, particularly when we're in their domain. You know, you just wouldn't stand a chance.
Hooking a great white takes skill and almost superhuman nerves. While the massive sharks are relatively easy to lure, they're so big and dangerous, they're hard to wrangle safely. Few mortals brave waters teeming with the world's most infamous fins. But after 2 days, the experienced team's having trouble. The sharks they've hooked have escaped. As Matt and the crew scan the waters, someone yells out a single word: fin.
The fish there? Yeah, it is.
Just ahead, an ominous shadow moves under the water. It's huge.
Oh, it's a big one. Holy crap, it's a big one. It's a monster. It's a huge one.
Matt decides to change tactics, switching rods for rope.
Just go to the old right.
I said, there's no way we're going to catch that on rod and reel. And we decided on the spot that we were going to try and catch it on a hand line.
Moving quickly, Matt ties a rope line together. He attaches a piece of bait and casts it towards the circling fin. He's never used this rope rig before. He hopes it'll work.
Bring that in, Pete, so we can make sure we've got a bait on it.
Almost immediately, Matt feels a tug on the line. A bite.
Yeah, oh, look at it!
But just as fast,
Just bust it off. No.
the rope goes slack. The great whites drop the bait.
Oh no, is it all wrapped up?
The angler's convinced his chance at a DNA sample's lost.
When the stakes are so high and at the moment that the fish gets away, it's just you're left feeling so totally empty.
But the shark has other ideas.
Okay, well, that bait's still alive.
The great white turns around and comes back for more.
Here he comes, look at that.
Seeing it next to the boat, Matt can't believe his eyes.
That is huge, mate. I'm trembling. I'm trembling. That is a huge fish, mate.
This time, the great white chomps on a second piece of bait.
Look at the teeth.
But once the beast feels the hook in its mouth, it begins thrashing, charging and circling in a frenzy.
Oh, look at this. This is unreal.
The great white draws closer to the boat, gnashing on the line, only to race out again in a powerful surge.
Okay, the rope's running out. It's got a good hold. It's not going to let go. Look at it.
The fish would just have to shake its head, and it would shake us around like rag dolls.
Look at it, head out of the water.
The rope might as well have been tied to the back of a train. We had about as much chance of pulling it in.
Suddenly, Matt realizes the Goliath predator's changed course.
Oh, here he's come back.
It's headed directly towards them.
It's charging back towards us really aggressively. It's got its mouth open and it's chomping.
The crew holds its breath as the great white approaches and swims under the boat.
The rope's under the boat. Go hard. Go.
It's a dire situation. Underwater, the rope line's perilously close to the propeller. If a spinning blade cuts the line loose, the great white could escape.
Straighten up, mate, straighten up.
For the crew, staying calm is critical. One wrong move could end in disaster.
If anyone had their foot in a loop of that rope or got a wrap of that line tangled around our hands, there's no way you're going to be able to hold yourself.
Watch out, mate, watch out, watch that rope.
You were just going to be dragged overboard.
This is amazing.
The battle of man versus great white rages for a back-breaking 40 minutes until the crew gets a lucky break. The rope line tangles around the shark's tail. For the mission, it's now do or die.
With the rope wrapped around the tail, the fish was unable to swim, and that was a stroke of luck for us. I'm not sure we would have been able to get it in otherwise.
Working the rope like a lasso, the crew pulls the great white alongside the boat. Reeled in at last, it's a monster. The shark stretches almost 3.5 meters long with tremendous girth. Matt estimates the shark weighs nearly 1 metric ton.
I mean, look, here it comes. I mean, it's like a truck. Look at that. Yeah, look at the girth, look at the teeth and the girth on that thing.
It was like no fish that I'd felt before. A simple shake of the head or a kick of the tail was really enough to flick you overboard. It was like a cattle beast, a bull with teeth and fins.
But the real test's just begun. The lassoed shark's only partially immobilized. It can still surge and twist. To avoid harm to shark or angler, the team must get a fin sample fast. They've got to take a knife to one of the ocean's most deadly predators.
I was the most scared that I've ever been.
The crew takes turns positioning themselves over the edge of the boat. They aim for the great white's tail.
You grab my cut.
Once.
Be very careful, mate. Yeah, grab this top fin.
Twice. They fail. Each time, they have to pull the powerful shark back in line. It's nerve-wracking work. Finally, with a swift slice,
Cut.
they've done it.
Yeah, we got our sample. Yeah, we got our sample. Okay.
The sample's placed in a sealed vial.
Okay, no, here. I'll be able to untangle it from here.
Moving fast, the team releases the rope from the great white. The beast swims back into the depths.
There it goes. There it goes, swimming away. Woo! Look, it spun around, it's righted itself.
The DNA mission's a success.
Yeah! Oh, thank you so much, bro. You're the man. You're the man, Stewie.
I guess afterwards, when you think about, how dangerous it all was, and you have time to take it all in, you think, hey, well, that was pretty dangerous.
And we got our shark.
But for some, the obsession with great whites drives them to take the ultimate plunge, cage diving. As this footage shows, each year thousands of tourists step inside reinforced shark-proof cages and dare to meet the mammoth hunters face to face.
They want to introduce people to sharks and give people an opportunity to experience that.
Advocates say cage diving helps great white appreciation, turning fear into understanding and awareness into urgency to save this remarkable species. But opponents say cage diving threatens great white survival, agitating and inciting them to expend life-saving energy. The biggest controversy rages around a baiting practice called chumming, luring sharks with blood.
The problem is if you let them eat, they may actually get full or get bored and then leave. So the goal is to keep them stimulated, but not feed them. But the bad thing is that we are creating, in some cases, bad habits. So it's like having a nice barbecue restaurant, and they make sure that those odors waft out of the restaurant to lure people down the sidewalk to come to the restaurant. So in a way, chumming does change behavior of animals.
But there's one thing all fans of the great white agree on. As global populations dwindle, protecting these endangered apex predators is a top priority. In the world of monster fish, these whiskered whoppers may not be pretty, but they pack a wallop. Muscular and massive, the Wels catfish.
They're really ugly as a fish goes. They have a big, giant mouth. They have little whiskers at the ends, and they have little beady eyes.
What they lack in looks, they make up for in attitude. Aggressive bottom feeders, Wels catfish are equal opportunity carnivores. gobbling nearly any fish or shellfish they encounter. They even hunt animals above the water.
Catfish will eat things like ducks. They'll actually come up to the surface and suck ducks in.
And Europe's largest freshwater fish reaches jaw-dropping proportions. Healthy adults stretch 1.5 meters. Some record breakers have grown 3 meters or longer, topping the scales at over 180 kilos. Biologists credit their mega size to powerful mouths equipped with super suction.
They're the ultimate bottom sucker. I mean, these things are like giant Hoover vacuum cleaners on the bottom.
And Wels catfish are cunning hunters who kill by confusion. Using a pair of sharp fins below their jawlines, the catfish stir up currents and commotion in the water. As prey become disoriented, the catfish goes in for the kill. For anglers, it all makes the whopping Wels catfish a mega catch.
The Wels is the king. They don't need to fear anything, apart from an angler.
October 2004, Westfalen, Germany. Two fishing buddies, Sebastian Vosvodovsky and Christoph Grafe, set out for carp and small catfish on the Weser River, known catfish stomping ground. Powering a rubber dinghy, they reach a secret fishing spot and settle in for a relaxing afternoon. They have no idea a leviathan lurks below. Suddenly, Sebastian's rod takes a dip. He's got something huge.
First I thought, hey, we've hooked a giant tree branch.
And he says, I have one. And I say, that can't be.
But it's no tree branch. Sebastian lets out his line as the underwater giant pulls the boat to the center of the river, where the currents, flow, and momentum can help a fish shake a hook. The same currents that are toughest for a fisherman to fight.
And the fish ran out into the current, tried to defend itself, to get rid of the bait. That was a spectacle.
The creature's strength is overwhelming. Sebastian's fishing rod bows even deeper in the water. More than once, the fish nearly pulls him overboard.
For the first half hour, it pulled us zigzag across the river. And we were shocked what might be on the other end.
He did what he wanted with us. We had no control over the fish.
The men struggle to stay afloat as the waters rage around them. They could get swept downstream or caught in the rapids.
It's a fight. The fish is deep down, you sit in your relatively small rubber dinghy, you're at his mercy.
Sebastian battles the mystery Goliath for nearly an hour. He's fast reaching the breaking point. His arms are giving out. Gathering the last of his strength, the angler pulls as hard as he can. In a sudden surge, he sees the Whopper at last.
We looked at each other. It was gigantic. We had goosebumps.
The fish whacked his tail on the water. Then I knew, this is a big one.
It's a mammoth Wels catfish, longer than the boat. More than ever, the men are determined to land it, but it's too big to battle in deep water. They decide on a backbreaking and risky plan to maneuver the massive fish toward shore.
You can dislocate a shoulder with such a big fish.
It's human versus animal, or fish versus equipment. The rod, everything could have broken.
Nearly spent, Sebastian and Christoph reach the riverbank. Christoph gets out of the dinghy. Sebastian hands him the rod and reel. But the fish keeps fighting. Sebastian decides there's only one thing left to do: wrestle the beast with his bare hands. He jumps in the water and tries to grab hold of the fighting catfish, but it's too big to manhandle.
It felt as if you're lifting a tree trunk. I pulled him up like this. His whole head was lying in front of me, and his giant chest fin.
Finally, after 5 tries and an epic 2.5-hour tug of war, the angler wrestles the beast into his arms. Victory. It's the catfish of his life, a record breaker. Before releasing it, Sebastian and Christoph weigh and measure the titanic fish. Over 2 meters long and nearly 84 kilos. The largest German Wels ever caught on rod and reel. But biologists fear whoppers like the Wels may go the way of the dinosaur. Apex predators like these face climate change, pollution, and overfishing. Some believe there's only one hope: taming the wild, turning big fish into livestock, a practice called aquaculture.
In many ways, aquaculture is analogous to farming, except it's an aquatic version. It's like raising cows, except instead of raising cows, you're raising catfish. That's a way of actually protecting wild stocks.
Aquaculture's still in its infancy. Advocates are trying to make practices healthy and sustainable. But opponents say farmed fish are exposed to waste and toxic chemicals used to fight disease in crowded ponds. In addition, farming big fish like catfish, salmon, and tuna requires vast amounts of fish feed caught in the wild.
So one of the challenges of aquaculture is that to do it on a commercial scale, to make it viable, requires crowding a bunch of fish together. You have to feed them a lot. If the fish gets sick, you have to use antibiotics. All of these things can alter the habitat. So while the future may be in aquaculture and not the internet, it has to be done in an ecologically sustainable way.
Many argue the ultimate solution is to restore native habitats, allowing alpha predators once again to dominate the deep. Marlin. In an ocean full of whoppers, they're the ultimate swordsman. These speed demon predators can swim over 80 kilometers an hour, but their greatest trick takes them from swimming machine to flying machine.
Well, some marlin can jump probably 15 feet in the air, which is pretty impressive.
Why do marlin jump? The question captivates anglers and biologists alike. From sardines to tuna, other fish can fly, but marlin may be the ocean's most astounding aerial athletes.
They'll jump, they'll tail walk, or they'll literally leap clear out of the water. And to see a fish that big do that, the amount of speed and force it takes to get that big a body out of the water is pretty amazing.
Theories on marlin leaping range from fleeing to feeding. Hooked marlin catapult above water, trying to shake themselves free. Other times, they may leap to ambush prey or lose a potential predator. But some biologists believe marlin jumping may come down to a pesky parasite. These constant companions are called copepods, tiny crustaceans with cylindrical shells, long antennae, and grasping legs. Copepods cling to marlin, crawling up and down, burrowing into their skin. Their nickname says it all: sea lice. To try to shake these pests, marlin may take to the sky.
So they're like lice on a human, or a flea or a tick. They're along for the ride. Some of them actually suck blood or fluids from the fish. So other reasons why they may do that is to shake parasites off their bodies.
Whatever the reason marlin jump, one thing's certain. For an angler, these flying fighters are the ultimate challenge.
And when it's going all over in the air, you're seeing this thing jump and going greyhounding in front of you. They can tow you for miles.
January 2007, fishing mecca Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. Adventure angler Jonathan Schwartz is on a mission to fish record-sized marlin. The only catch? He plans to do it from a kayak.
There's 2 thin layers of plastic that's separating you from a huge monster fish.
To reach open ocean, Jonathan tows out attached to a small transport boat. On board's a trusted crew, but they can only help the ambitious angler for so long. Big game kayak fishing's extremely dangerous. Even the most skilled sportsman can lose a limb, his boat, or his life.
What can go wrong on a kayak? Well, first of all, the fish can pull you over. Another thing that obviously can happen is that with their pointed beaks, they can skewer you or they can skewer the kayak.
Jonathan's heard rumors there's a huge marlin population on the hunt for prey, but so far he's struck out.
I was paddling around all day, miles, and I was exhausted. Till right before the day was over, we decided for one last try.
Suddenly, he spots dive-bombing birds, sure sign of mackerel schooling below, and a marlin feeding frenzy. Jonathan begins paddling furiously. He casts a baited reel. But the angler faces a triple challenge: scouting, rowing, and fishing, all at the same time.
And so what I do is I try to catch up to the marlin. And then as soon as I did, I'd realize my bait is 50 yards behind me. And the guys on the boat were going, "They're over there!"
As Jonathan struggles, the marlin race after the fleeing mackerel. The sportsman fears his mission's impossible.
There's only so much I can do, so I'd reel in my bait, and by the time I reeled in my bait, the fish were 100 yards over there.
Jonathan knows his only hope is to find a slow-moving marlin pulling up the rear. A fish swimming behind the pack might be drawn to Jonathan's bait.
There it is!
His hunch is right on target.
Next thing I realized is I was on a fish, and the thing immediately turned my kayak around.
Jonathan's hooked a monster. As the kayak spins in the water, the fish takes off like a torpedo. Any moment, the kayak could dangerously capsize, and the fighting fish could drag Jonathan under. Suddenly, the marlin breaches, trying to throw the hook. Soaring above the water, Jonathan sees the Whopper for the first time.
And this thing was like the dream fish. I saw it first leap out of the water, spray glistening in the sun, and I knew that I was on the fight of my life.
Leaping and charging, the marlin pulls the boat an incredible 4 miles. Jonathan throws his legs over the side to increase drag, but the fish keeps fighting. On the kayak, it's like riding a bucking bronco.
So this fish erupts right next to me, and I'm thinking, how close is it? You know, I mean, I want the thing to be close to me, but at the same time, I can get speared or skewered.
Finally, after a 45-minute battle of wills, the marlin starts to slow down. Jonathan makes his move. Marshaling his strength, he pulls as hard as he can. Reeling fast. At last, he gets the Whopper to the boat. It's massive. It's as long as he is and well over 45 kilos. But the battle isn't over. The sportsman wants to set the marlin free. To do it, he has to wrestle its sharp, spiny bill, unhooking the embedded leader by hand. A dangerous duel.
And I have to quickly figure out, is it going to thrash and buck, or is it going to stay still just for that quick 10 seconds where I take the hook out? And not only that, but is it safe to grab a huge hook that can be embedded into my hand?
Jonathan moves quickly and carefully.
I'm gonna take the hook out of his mouth.
He places a hand on the bill sword and eases towards the embedded hook. He's done it.
All right.
Jonathan gently pushes the marlin under.
Took the hook out and everything. See you later, big boy.
The battle of man and fish is over.
When I was able to take the hook out of the marlin's mouth and see it swim away in good health, looked down, I had all 10 fingers. I was like, yee-hoo! It was just an unbelievable experience.
But today, the marlin faces another lethal danger: bycatch. Commercial fisheries go after valuable food like tuna and swordfish using mile-long, multi-hooked fishing lines, a practice called longlining. Marlin casualties are part of the cost of doing business.
Marlin do not do very well on a long line. They have to constantly swim in order to breathe. So as a result, they can't be easily released, so many of them die on the line.
Conservation can help. Stronger restrictions for releasing bycatch quickly and safely, combined with stricter commercial fishing laws, may help reduce bycatch waste.
There are a lot of scientists looking for finding ways to reduce bycatch in longline fisheries because this is where most of the seafood comes from that everybody likes to eat. Many states don't allow the sale of marlin. So as a result, that's one way of protecting them.
Big as a bathtub with a scaly suit of armor. In the world of Whoppers, they're the T-Rex of the goldfish family. Siamese giant carp.
The giant Siamese carp is like a goldfish on steroids. And they just get really, really fat.
The planet's largest carp can reach gargantuan dimensions. Whoppers have stretched 1.5 meters, weighing over 90 kilos. Impressive size for a frequent vegetarian.
The fact that they get as big as they do is amazing. They eat plant material. They're the cows of the fish world.
One secret to their heft is an appetite to match. Freshwater carp feed ravenously, sucking up food into their hungry mouths. One of their favorite meals, algae, has made the fish popular with commercial fisheries, trying to cut algae overgrowth. Hungry carp eat so much algae, they clean up entire ponds. And in their Asian homelands, the fleshy fish are superstars, highly prized for food and sport. To a fisherman, a Whopper carp can be the catch of a career.
It is a hard fish to find. In fishing, the giant carp is the ultimate. It is the best freshwater game you can catch.
July 2007, Bangsamlan Lake, 40 minutes from downtown Bangkok. A thriving fishing mecca known for catfish, snakeheads, and giant carp. Local angler and professional fishing guide, Kik Pantopapat, stakes out a prime fishing spot on a wooden dock near his home. Kik has a critical goal. He wants to test a custom fishing rod he designed and built himself. Kik's finely crafted gear is famed throughout Thailand. Today, the new reel's making its virgin run. Kik baits and drops his line, hoping to snag a few healthy catfish. He rests his rod on the planks. Suddenly, his reel starts to sing. Spinning fast, letting off yards of line in fierce spurts.
After a few spins, it started to move, and then it pulled out the line and didn't stop.
Whatever he's got, it's one of the most powerful fish Kix ever fought.
This one is really strong, heavy. He was a very disobedient fish.
Desperate to gain leverage, Kix struggles to draw the fish closer to the dock, but the behemoth won't budge. After nearly half an hour, the fisherman's feeling the strain and starting to lose hope. He's worried the new fishing rod might crack or snap.
I was reeling in the fish and trying not to break the rod at the same time. It fought for a good amount of time.
Kix gives a frantic pull and gets a sudden glimpse of a dark, scaly creature. It's enormous. But the Leviathan keeps swimming, this time darting all the way under the dock. The longer the nylon thread rubs against the wooden piling, the more likely it'll snap. Kit calls for help from nearby friend and fisherman Sam Pete. The men struggle to get the monster into Sam Pete's net, but they make an alarming discovery. The Whopper's so big, it'll rip the net to shreds. It's too heavy to hoist. Now, as the tangled line traps the thrashing fish below, Kix losing the fight from above. Dropping the fishing rod, Kix dives in to free the line. He swims dangerously close to the writhing fish. One whack of a tail could hit like a punch. The angler grabs hold of the twisted line, untangling it fast. As the fish swims out, Sam Pete tries to corral it one more time using the net as a barrier. Kix running out of breath. He grabs at the fish. Man and beast wrestle in the water. At last, the battle's over. Kix got it. A carp bigger than he is.
It made me sink down to my knees. I tried to carry it with my friend, and we tried to carry it, but we couldn't.
The giant fish dwarfs the two men, estimated at almost 2 meters and 120 kilos. One of the largest Siamese carp ever pulled in on rod and reel. Kix and Sam Pete release the giant back into the lake, free to grow even bigger.
I've been fishing 23 years, and this is the biggest fish I've ever caught. I'm very proud and very happy.
Around the world, some carp species are a contradiction, both dangerous and endangered. Some varieties are deadly invasive species, introduced by smugglers or commercial fish farms. These carp reproduce in large numbers, outfeeding and destroying entire ecosystems. Yet on their home turf, some carp species are overfished. Many carp are dangerously depleted. Both problems point to human appetite. When it comes to what's on the menu, changing our tastes can mean saving big fish. One solution: only eat abundant species, breeding, hatching, and growing fast in your own backyard.
80% of the seafood that's consumed in the United States is imported from other places, which means only 20% is either caught locally or grown locally. The only other alternatives at that point really come down to the consumer. It's the person who goes to the seafood market or goes to the restaurant who can decide.
Among prehistoric monster fish, they're the ultimate survivors. Living fossils, they outsize surfboards and outlive centuries. The white sturgeon.
So these things can get really, massive. I mean, people that go out fishing for them quite often or catch them, and they're in smaller boats than the fish they catch.
Meet North America's largest freshwater fish. Record white sturgeon have stretched as long as 6 meters, weighing almost 1 ton. Much of their size is thanks to something they share with another alpha predator, the shark.
They look like a shark. They have a tail like a shark, and they even have a prehistoric look like a shark.
There's good reason for the resemblance. Sturgeon belong to the bony fish family. But don't let the name fool you. Like a shark, a sturgeon's secret weapon and competitive edge is cartilage. For all cartilage-based species, the tough material carries advantages brittle bones just can't match.
We know having a cartilage skeleton is a primitive character. We see it in sharks and rays, which are also very old. It gives them increased flexibility when they're younger, but when they get bigger, that cartilage actually becomes more calcified, gives them protection.
And sturgeon anatomies changed little in the last 70 million years. Proof these predators are strong survivors and one of the most challenging catches on Earth.
They could pull a boat forever. They're incredibly powerful. This is why fishermen love to catch them, because they're a long, hard fight.
August 2006, the Fraser River, British Columbia, Canada. A small fishing expedition sets out deep into sturgeon country. On one of the boats, sportsman Tim Swings nicknamed the Sturgeonator, armed with the might and muscle to tackle these behemoths head on.
You just need the skill to know when to let the fish run, a strong back and strong arms helps.
So far, Tim's caught some medium-sized fish, but he has yet to reel in a monster. Suddenly, Tim and his fishing guide CJ get an urgent radio call.
Hey CJ, did you see that fish?
Another boat in the expedition needs their help.
It come out of the water.
They're asking for Tim and his brawn.
We need some fresh arms in the boat.
Tim's size and strength are just the support they need.
From what I can remember, he said,
maybe you can send the big guy over.
I think we're going to need the big guy.
Tim and CJ power over to the catch in progress. They have no idea what to expect. Then, a giant sturgeon shoots out of the water, soaring several feet into the air.
When it first broke surface, couldn't believe the size of it. It's just a memory I'll never forget.
On his boat, angler Cyril Packwin's determined to win the fight of a lifetime.
Yeah, when I went out for sturgeon, my brother had gone previously. He had caught a 55-pound sturgeon. So being the little brother, I wanted to beat that 55-pound mark.
Cyril and pro fishing guide Mark Lanes have already been battling the underwater behemoth for a back-breaking 30 minutes.
Just can't move him.
The fish pulls in fast bursts, yanking 100 yards of line at a time, straining dangerously hard against the boat's mooring.
Never had a fish like this on. I'll tell you that.
Mark knows the line's seconds from breaking. There's only one way to save it: hoist anchor.
Once we had seen what we had on and we realized that this has got to be 10 feet long, it was pretty apparent we had to follow this fish. So I ran up to the front, disconnected the anchor.
As the fight wears on, Cyril can barely feel his upper body.
My hands were numb, sweaty. My forearms were numb. And just then the fish went on a screaming tear. I was scared of let go of the rod.
Help arrives just in time. Tim Swain pulls up alongside and jumps on board. Grabbing the rod from Cyril, Tim's shocked. The pull's strong enough to yank even a big man overboard.
That was like nothing I'd ever experienced. It just stripped line at will. There was nothing you could do except just hang on.
The fishermen begin handing the rod back and forth. A tag team tug of war.
You ready?
Yep.
Gave me time to rest, and then we just went at it, taking turns from then on. It was just amazing. It's like hooking onto a freight train.
It's like tying a fishing line to a horse's tail, and you smack its backside and try and hang on.
After 90 minutes, the angler's stamina's giving out. Without warning, the sturgeon surfaces, breaching across the back of the boat. It's titanic.
Oh, that's big. That's big. How are we going to land this one?
The sturgeon's too big to reel in. The men have to land it, literally. The team hatches a plan. Get the Whopper to shallow water and wrestle it by hand. To do it, they've got to steer the boat, keeping the fish bobbing at the surface safely away from underwater hideouts.
We got it on the surface, and it was probably about 20 feet from the back of the boat as we drifted down the river looking for somewhere to land it.
At last, the boat approaches a sandy bank. The fishermen have no time to lose. Jumping into the water, they approach the biggest sturgeon they've ever seen. Longer than a surfboard, it takes 4 men to grapple with the unwieldy beast. Finally, the team grabs hold. Together, they flip the fish over.
It's got to be over 11 foot. God, that's
friggin' huge.
They've got the Whopper at last.
Squeeze him in here.
Lead him in.
The size of it. Hey, Cyril, I got the hook out.
Up close, the anglers are astounded. Almost 3.5 meters long, 1.5 meters around, and an estimated 385 kilos. So massive, it's estimated as one of the biggest freshwater fish ever caught on rod and reel.
The odds of hooking into a fish like that are 1,000,000 to 1. The odds of landing a fish like that after you hooked it aren't that great either. It was really just the accomplishment of we beat the odds. You know, we got this fish to shore.
But the battle isn't over. Fishing guides Mark and CJ are devoted conservationists, armed with microchip tracking tags that help biologists monitor sturgeon populations.
6 Echo.
Working fast, the team has to tag the sturgeon and release it back into the river, ensuring this Whopper can keep growing and out-surviving nearly every species on Earth. Mission accomplished. The phenomenal catch makes headlines, and the tagged sturgeon takes off into deep water, alive and well.
It's every angler's dream to catch a fish like that.
For sport fish survival, catch and release is critical. But when it comes to size restrictions, conventional wisdom to keep the big ones and throw back the small ones may be wrong. Intriguing data reveals a twist. Keeping the small ones and releasing the biggest, most fully mature Whoppers may be better, especially when it comes to females.
Most fisheries biologists now agree that it's all about big mamas. It's the big mamas that sustain the populations, and they've been around a long time, which means they're the best fit. So they're going to pass those genes on to their offspring, which means they're going to be the future big mamas.
And ironically for a fish, getting caught may actually be a sign of daring, proof of a greater capacity to grow big. Some biologists believe fish who bite lures tend to be those who feed most aggressively, boldly competing for food, driven by the healthiest appetites. Scientists measure these traits, judging different fish using a scale called differences in boldness.
Well, difference of boldness can be looked at in a couple different ways. You're really aggressive in feeding. Or, in the case of big fish, when you get to be that big, you can do anything you want. You can be as bold as you want to be.
For anglers and scientists, it's all part of changing the way we handle big fish like sturgeon to help them survive the next millennia.
Ready?
Titanic beasts of jaw-dropping proportions, extraordinary creatures that dominate the depths. Whether we encounter them through science, industry, or sport, they are alpha predators and super survivors. More than ever, to share our planet with them, we must understand and protect the world's most extreme monster fish. Catfish grappling.
When that fish starts spinning, them gills and all will just rip you open. The caveman done it, the Indians done it. It's a matter of survival.
Shark wrangling. Flying fish fighting.
Well, that fish come out of nowhere and got me in the eye.
It's about like getting hit with a bowling ball.
And wrestling beasts by the boatload. It's some of the world's most extreme encounters of man versus fish on Caught Barehanded. From America's swampland to the oceans off Papua New Guinea to Sardinia's Mediterranean shores, since man's roamed the earth, he's fished for food, sport, and survival. For most, the tools are rod and reel, spear and net. For some, it's personal. They fish barehanded. Battered, bloody, and bitten raw. To catch Whopper fish, they use extraordinary bait, their own hands. And when these obsessed fishermen face a cutthroat competition, it's no pain, no gain. June 2007, Pauls Valley, Oklahoma. For one of the world's oddest sports, this is the Olympics, the annual Okie Noodling Tournament.
Yeah, we try to bring our family every year.
We just came to see the fish and touch it.
Noodling, tickling, grabbling, or hogging, whatever you call it, it's catfish wrangling. Diving into hidden lairs, holding their breath, using nothing more than fingers, hands, even whole arms. Fishermen track, stalk, and haul up river Goliaths.
I got part of it. Tell me, what's more challenging than you getting in the water, catching this fish with your bare hands, and coming up with it?
Noodling has ancient roots. Native American fishermen used diverse fishing methods, including grappling. Early accounts describe them diving into riverbeds, wriggling cloths to entice big fish with their bare hands. And noodlers today speculate on a far more primitive history.
You know, it's barbaric, a lot of people say, cavemanish. Well, hey, if I was a caveman, I think I could survive, just from, you know, what we know how to do.
And it all comes down to a battle against a whopper, the North American freshwater catfish. Native to rivers and lakes west of the Appalachian Mountains, catfish average nearly a meter long and can easily reach 20 kilograms. Quick and cunning, these whiskered catfish feed voraciously, eating vast quantities and growing non-stop. Some live as long as 30 years, and record catfish have even stretched 1.5 meters, weighing more than 40 kilograms. It all adds up to a fish with tremendous mass and might.
When he's in that water, he's got more strength than you've got. It's just like a tornado on your hands and arms. He gets to spinning, he'll just twist you up. You can't hold him.
But it's the way these catfish breed that makes noodling possible. In summer, the females lay eggs inside holes, rocky nooks, hollow logs, and man-made boxes built by noodlers. Astoundingly, for each kilogram of body weight, a spawning female can lay over 2,000 eggs. That means a 45-kilogram catfish can release an incredible 100,000 eggs in a single spawn. And once the female deposits the eggs, the males protect them from predators with fierce determination.
All he's trying to do is bite at you and make you leave the hoe so that you don't get to the babies.
To an egg-guarding catfish, a noodler's wriggling hand may be food or foe. Either way, the catfish bites down hard. For the noodler, the battle's just begun. And these fishermen have to battle other hidden hazards. Gnawing beavers, snapping turtles, and poisonous snakes also lurk in these muddy waters. The noodler's credo? No hooks, no bait, no fear.
You ask people about noodling, oh, they're crazy, they're stupid, they're idiots. We're not idiots. We catch a lot of fish and we have a lot of fun.
Friday, June 29, 2007. Evening falls on Oklahoma. At the stroke of 7:30, the tournament begins. These Okie noodling competitors have exactly 24 hours to grapple one of Oklahoma's baddest bottom dwellers and race to make it back in time for a 7:30 evening weigh-in at Bob's Pig Shop. To prove their catch is fresh, most haul in live specimens and store them in tanks bigger than bathtubs. Grapplers can compete in two categories, natural or scuba. Natural noodling is strictly equipment-free, while scuba allows for any type of underwater breathing apparatus. Noodlers can use springs to hold their catches and bring them out of the water, and they can wear protective gloves. But many keep it barehanded. Today, taking the biggest fish will come down to skill, luck, strength, and a will to win. In this tough competition, 4 rivals are top contenders. Don Brewer, a die-hard noodler with a passion and a high-tech edge.
You can catch the bigger fish. You can find the deeper holes and stay down there with them.
Howard Ramsey and Gary Webb, 2 Missouri grapplers on a mission.
We're going to show them Oklahoma boys that some old Missouri boys can catch some fish.
And cigar-toting local legend, Lee McFarland.
My dad and relatives and uncles, we all went together. It's just a family tradition.
I told him, now he can out-noodle me, and he's great.
Family catfish dinners are a chance for the McFarland clan to swap war stories and fan the flames for future generations.
When I pulled out my hand, it was just gushing blood. And right then and there, I was like, I gotta get this fish.
I hated fish back then. They were disgusting. Dad finally talked me into going fishing with him, and so I went. After that, I was hooked. It was just a bonding moment for me and my dad.
I didn't think a girl would do it, but she's getting pretty good at it.
Hopefully I can trade to my kids and they can train their kids.
As a sport, grappling's growing fast. Since the first Okie noodling tournament in 2000, the event now draws more than 3,000 spectators, and more fishermen sign up each year, well over 100 registered competitors. Who will win as they all prepare to do battle barehanded?
That was quick.
More than 10,000 kilometers away in Papua New Guinea, fish wrangling's a life-threatening ancient art where men lure deadly predators barehanded. They are shark callers. New Ireland Province, about 600 kilometers off the coast of mainland Papua New Guinea. Here in the southwest Pacific Ocean, fishing's a way of life. But one fishing tradition is extremely dangerous. Shark callers go out to lure and kill a live shark. Village men do it to win honor and respect and to catch food.
The shark can bite your hand if you're not careful.
They get many people and they die.
Daniel Soka, the village chief, insists that shark calling is a skill that must be passed down through the generations.
Shark callers need to know exactly how to do it right. He must learn special skills from his father or grandfather.
Today, the tradition's dying out. Most young men are now exposed to modern practices and have abandoned ancient techniques and daring rituals. But a few dedicated shark callers remain, keeping the tradition alive. In these teeming waters, a caller might find himself face to face with a giant reef shark, a 3-meter hammerhead, or a massive mako weighing hundreds of kilograms. Big sharks make for a big meal, but for centuries, ancient shark callers also believed these monster fish carried the spirits of dead ancestors. When a shark comes to them, they believe these ancestors are responding to their call.
These people live their entire lives on the sea. They've had an opportunity to experiment, learn, discover. They probably know more than most scientists about what attracts a shark.
To prepare a shark calling, the young boys in the village help carve a noose-shaped shark trap. The noose connects to a large propeller-shaped piece of wood that floats next to the boat. As the shark swims into the trap, the noose is tightened around it. The propeller's buoyancy keeps the shark from going under. Blaze Old has performed shark callings for over 20 years. He's ready to go out again. 6 a.m., the day of Blaze's shark calling. He begins his hunt. He has little room for provisions like food and water in the narrow boat, bringing only the trap, a bait stick, a shell, and a rattle.
This is the way to return.
Unique shark anatomy makes this unusual practice possible. Sharks are extraordinarily sensitive to sound. Equipped with vibration sensors under their skin called neuromasts, these homing devices work like human nerve endings, allowing sharks to pick up any disturbance in the water, including sound waves. Zeroing in with pinpoint precision, sharks will investigate any commotion that might signal injured prey.
Shark callers capture sharks by attracting them sonically. They rattle coconut husks, and that sounds underwater like a struggling fish, or even the stridulation, that is, the rubbing together of lobster parts.
Knowing this, Blaze mimics a shark's next meal, singing, thrashing, and rattling for the biggest monster he can find, ready to wrangle him with bare hands. Minutes stretch into hours, and still no shark as night falls. Blaze returns to shore only to resume his hunt the next morning. At last, a sudden dip in a floating log indicates a shark feeding beneath. Using his fish bait, Blaze lures the shark into the noose trap. It's a reef shark, over 5 feet long. In the trap, the struggling shark hovers dangerously close to the canoe. Blaze tightens the noose carefully. Tie it too loosely, and the shark could break free and attack. Finally, after exhausting days in the open water, tirelessly luring sharks, Blaze summons his training and his courage. The shark caller delivers a final fatal blow. Now, Blaze pulls the shark on board and blows his horn, alerting the community of his success.
I feel happy. I feel happy when I catch shark.
Later, the shark caller shares his catch in a village celebration. Women prepare the shark as food, as villagers dance and sing in honor of the calling. In a melding of ancient tradition and modern economy, shark calling brings this remote village an unexpected benefit: tourism.
Tourism is one of the moneymakers for this community.
This place have a
They come and see people catch shark, and that is how we make money.
With Blaze, a sacred tradition continues another generation. But as commercial fisheries overfish local waters, sharks and other species grow scarce. And as native customs struggle to survive in a modern world, Papua New Guinea's brave shark callers may soon exist only in legend. Daring anglers risk everything fighting for the biggest catfish caught barehanded. The annual Okie Noodling Competition is on. 7:30 a.m., June 30th. Across Oklahoma, noodling hand fishermen dive half naked into rivers, lakes, and swamps to prove they're the best. For the next 12 hours, these passionate competitors will use flesh, fingers, and forearms to lure and grab biting flathead catfish. But to win, these competitors have to contend with a raging Mother Nature. Record rainfalls flooding rivers and lakes across the state. For noodlers, rising water levels are a formula for disaster, forcing them to dive deeper, holding their breath longer.
If everybody's got the water we've got, it's gonna be hard noodling. It's gonna be a hard contest. How in the world can you predict what Mother Nature's gonna do?
Kilometers away, noodlers Howard Ramsey and Gary Webb face an additional challenge, finding the right spot.
We're only about 50 miles from Grand Lake up there, Gary. Yeah.
The Missouri Grabblers traveled hundreds of kilometers to compete in Oklahoma, where noodling's legal. For them, hand fishing's an inalienable right and a political cause. Hoping to legalize the sport nationwide, Howard formed the Missouri-based grassroots group, Noodlers Anonymous.
These fish belong to the citizens of Missouri, and we should have the right to catch them. We're going to continue to fight it.
Informal meetings raise awareness and solidarity amongst devoted noodlers and their families.
I'm doing it for my grandkids too, because I want them to get in the water and enjoy their next 48 years as much as I've enjoyed my last 48 years.
If you're not bleeding, you're not hand fishing.
But for the team, unfamiliarity with Oklahoma waters, combined with torrential rains today, may be their undoing. Missouri noodlers typically fish in rivers, but these strong currents are overwhelming.
I think these are up way too much, Gary.
We may have to do something different on this trip.
We'll find someplace to get in the water.
Each added centimeter of rain makes finding deep burrowing catfish more challenging and dangerous. During spawning season, catfish tirelessly seek out remote hidden lairs. In particular, male catfish possess a powerful instinct to build nests, lure females, and protect egg clutches as far from prying predators as possible. For catfish, the deeper they burrow inside nooks and crannies, the better. For hand fishermen, the same survival mechanism poses a daunting challenge. Now, hunting blind in muddy waters, Howard, his daughter Julie, and Gary are hoping experience and superior teamwork will give them the edge they need.
Hand fishing is teamwork. You've got to have somebody there. It's dangerous to go by yourself.
Like Howard and Gary, most noodlers work in teams. Noodlers know their biggest risk is drowning. As one grabbler dives below, the spotter above can sometimes hold more than his partner's ankles. He can hold his life in his hands.
No fish is worth the chance of somebody's life, although I've had a couple of close calls.
Anytime you go underwater, you need somebody there to make sure what you're doing underwater. You're right. Nobody home.
Gary dives down while Howard's ready at a signal to help block a fighting cat's escape or give Gary a boost out of a tough scrape.
It's a damn good hole. He's clear into his waist. If he's been down very long, then I'm going down to see what's going on.
Gary kicks, but the fish gets away, yanking its jaws from Gary's grasp. Catfish have thick mouths lined with strong muscles built for bottom trawling and feeding on big, fleshy fish. The same muscles enable them to open their jaws extremely wide, swallowing human arms with little distress. Once they bite down, the proficient hunters use their gaping mouths to powerful effect.
Got me good.
Fighting their captors, writhing and twisting to get away. Some noodlers wear regulation-permitted gloves. But even with protection, pulling off a biting catfish takes a tolerance for pain.
There's no way around it. That fish is going to bite you and he's got teeth. That's going to pull the skin off your hands.
At last, the Missouri grabblers gather their catches. After more than 4 hours scouting, diving, and hand fishing blind, they've scored a few mature adults. But it's a disappointing start. Past tournament winners have noodled fish weighing over 25 kilograms. Gary and Howard's small specimens send them back into the waters looking for bigger conquests. As the Okie noodling tournament continues, there's still 7 hours left to go, and winning may come down to grabbling at the right place at the right time. But today, as the sport's popularity grows, scientists wonder if grabbling is cause for alarm. Since noodlers pull guarding catfish away from their eggs, some question the sport's impact on fish populations. Are noodlers destroying the very species they stalk? In the noodling world, Dana Winkleman's both sportsman and scientist, a biologist who studied catfish populations for years. To ensure big fish and overall healthy populations remain abundant, Dana works with noodlers in the field, keeping an eye on sizes, quotas, and catch techniques.
Any kind of fishing, you need to monitor and sort of keep an eye on it and watch the population. Thank you.
This year, Dana's also working with a team of biologists at the tournament's weigh station. As the competition wears on, noodlers bring in catches, while experts from Oklahoma State University weigh them, recording the data for ongoing records and research. Comparing measurements over time will help scientists determine whether catfish are endangered, diminishing in size or number. Ultimately, biologists like Dana Winkleman believe noodling's built-in dangers protect the catfish population most of all.
There's not enough people that have that drive to go out and put their hands into holes and things like that. With noodling, so few people do it, so the overall effect on the fish population is probably fairly negligible.
And with quotas in place, as long as noodling remains legal in some states, anglers like the Okie noodling competitors will grabble for food as they have for centuries.
If I can teach you this sport, you can survive, and your family will live. And it's a matter of how it was all handed down. I mean, the caveman done it, the Indians done it. It's a matter of survival.
Around the world, one dangerous species defies the laws of gravity, even when it's caught barehanded. When an alien predator threatens an ecosystem, anglers fight back. The only catch? This fish can fly. August, Bath, Illinois. In a renegade spirit, these hand fishermen take to the Illinois River in open boats, churning the waters, making a racket. It's the raucous Redneck Tournament.
You tell people about this, they don't believe it. You have to actually be here to see it.
Local citizen Betty DeFord founded the Redneck Tournament in 2005 after a family boating trip turned into a flying fish disaster. From the beginning, the tournaments had one sworn goal: stop an invading bully in its tracks. Under these waters lurks a slimy, scaly menace, the Asian carp. Like many invasive species, they're the ultimate unwelcome guests, depleting natural resources and multiplying with terrifying speed. In a wild test of nerve, these anglers are ready to do battle with boats and bare hands. Asian carp course below by the thousands, but when these fish feel threatened, they catapult.
What's it like when it's really cooking out there? It is like raining fish. I've seen them 25, 30, 40 of them just jumping at a time.
Plain physics says it's about like getting hit with a bowling ball.
What makes these fish fly? Scientists speculate it's similar to human stress. Faced with frightening noise or commotion, silver Asian carp leap through the air like projectile missiles trying to escape. But it's what they do underwater that's the biggest danger. Insatiable, the silver and other Asian carp varieties devour drifting aquatic creatures called plankton, starving out other competing species. Worst of all, flying carp also eat vast amounts of oxygen-producing algae. Without algae, oxygen-starved rivers lose the ability to sustain animal life. It's a deadly chain reaction set off by this river's public enemy #1.
If you don't have them in your waters, you don't want them in your waters. You want to stop them before they get there.
Ironically, U.S. fisheries originally imported Asian carp precisely for their insatiable taste for algae. But while the carp did help commercial fish farms keep overgrown algae in check, some of the voracious feeders escaped, making their way into the Illinois River. Today, at the Redneck Tournament, the boat with the most carp wins a cash award. Using nets in their bare hands, competitors try to snag as many flying, flipping fish as possible without getting clobbered.
I've had friends that got hit in the head, and last year's tournament, somebody got hit in the nose and broke his nose.
But in the war on Asian carp, the Redneck Tournament's only a drop in the bucket.
We want our waters back. If there's anyone that has a solution to this, I wish they'd step forward and tell us how.
Fisheries biologist Dwayne Chapman is experimenting with other ways to stem the alarming Asian carp invasion.
One native.
Yeah, 1 in 5 there. It's very depressing when we put these nets out and catch, on average, about 2/3 non-natives invasive species that we'd rather not have. And that is indicative of the abundance of those fish.
Unpopular in the U.S. as human food, Dwayne's investigating the feasibility of using the fish as zoo animal feed. Still, the scientist fears any use for Asian carp creates an ongoing demand. A far better plan might be to wipe them out.
If I could snap my fingers right now like that and make every one in the United States disappear, I would do it in a minute.
These anglers collect carp by the boatload, pulling in close to 2,000. But these flying fish remain a cautionary tale. However we fight their dangerous spread, invasive species pose a constant threat, turning nature's calm into chaos. But in another fabled hand fishing tournament, it's man versus coveted native, the freshwater catfish. Oklahoma, 2 p.m., the 24-hour Okie noodling tournament rages on as grappling fishermen vie for the biggest whopper. The clock is ticking, just 5.5 hours left to go. Unfortunately for these rival grapplers, record rains show no sign of letting up.
This is the deepest water I've seen around here for this long.
At least the wind ain't blowing too hard. That's good.
You said that earlier. See it starting to blow? Quit talking about the wind.
Don't mess
Don't
with the
jinx
fish, guys.
us.
Working Lake Carl Blackwell, famed noodler Lee McFarland stalking a supersized specimen. He's hoping for a monster.
About a 50 come out. No.
Prior winning catfish have weighed well over 25 kilograms. Lee takes a deep breath and takes the plunge. No luck.
Son. When I got my leg back up in that hole, and that fish come underneath here and got underneath me, and I couldn't ever get him to bite me. He just lifted me up, pushed me right up, and went right underneath me.
Many noodlers say to catch a fish, you have to think like a fish.
One-on-one, I'll go against anybody, hunting or fishing. It's just, this is my second nature.
Got him! Lee's father believes this noodler has an inside track on his prey.
That's nice. If you believe in reincarnation and all that, I believe he was a fish.
Lee goes under for another try in a drenching downpour. Once agitated, the catfish may do more than bite. They also use their bodies as battering rams.
I've had them come up and hit you right in the throat when you're coming out.
Lee swims close up to the lurking catfish while Mark waits for the signal. Down below, Lee furrows in a rock bed, feeling for the telltale flesh and the powerful chomp.
Stringer! Give me a for sure.
At last, after 7 long hours spent hunting, poking, and prodding in Oklahoma lakes, success. It's a colossal catfish.
Let's go ahead and put him in the boat. How's that one?
Lee pulls the catfish off his arm. His son carries the huge fish to the boat to put in a tub.
That's a nice one.
They estimate the fish weighs a formidable 22 kilograms. It's a monster, but Lee fears it's still too small to take top fish. He's driven to find more.
You want some glory to show people, hey, look at what we can catch. Because people think we're crazy anyways.
Yet as he heads to a new spot, he sees something frightening on the horizon. Lightning.
You don't play around water and lightning.
Now, with time running out, Lee watches the sky for a break in the dangerous weather. Some anglers form a powerful brotherhood, wrestling mammoth monsters caught barehanded. For them, hand fishing's their toughest test of strength and survival. San Pietro, small island off the coast of Sardinia. Since the time of Caesar, men have fished these fertile Mediterranean waters. Their most prized catch, the mighty bluefin tuna, a species revered as food and as a worthy opponent.
Tuna is a very strong fish. And the one that breaks the nets, that's the tuna I really love.
They're some of the strongest beasts on Earth, equipped with oxygen-rich muscle tissue that allows them to stay warm and agile even when hunting in frigid 4-degree waters. Tuna swim with astounding power and stamina, even reaching speeds of almost 100 kilometers per hour. So strong, they can easily travel halfway around the world in weeks. Huge and shimmering, bluefin tuna fend off predators by schooling underwater, deftly corralling and killing prey. Tuna have a limitless capacity to grow larger and larger. Record tuna have stretched longer than 4 meters, weighing over 600 kilograms. But no matter how big they get, their bulk never slows them down.
Bluefin tuna swim faster than it's legal to drive on most freeways. These are very large, very fast-growing fish, and when a fish is as large as that, very little in the ocean can threaten them.
Sardinian tuna fishing's a treasured heritage, a tradition unbroken since the Roman Empire, stretching at least as far back as the 4th century BC. Today, it remains a big part of local culture. No man can hand fish bluefin alone. It takes a tuna catching company called a tonara.
Things get done well, even though oftentimes it requires much more than it gives.
The head of the fisherman is the rice, Arabic for leader. More than anyone, he bears the burden of their feast or famine.
The rice is the expert. He has to be able to feel and practically be able to talk to the tuna.
Each spring, tonara fishermen, called tonaroti, drop woven nets into the sea, creating an elaborate maze stretching roughly 1.5 kilometers. As tuna migrate to the northwest, they swim into a single 0.5 kilometer net, stretching to the shore, called the tail. The tail diverts the tuna into the trap. Once inside, the fish corral into a series of chambers, ultimately leading to the final net, nicknamed the Chamber of Death. The rice decides when the nets are full, watching and checking them in regular jaunts from shore. On his go, the collective must be ready for one of the most back-breaking hand fishing practices on Earth. May. Time for the harvest. The men begin pulling the nets, dragging their boats inward, forcing the fish forward towards the chamber of death. As the nets close in, what starts as a 2-kilometer-long tuna trough ends up as a single net more than twice the size of a swimming pool.
Just the net weighs several tons. You have to raise it with your hands. You need a lot of strength.
To avoid net-ripping chaos, timing is everything.
We can lose fish when we attempt to close them in the chamber of death. The nets can collapse, and this makes the job even harder.
At last, it's time for the matanza, Italian for slaughter. The massive fish flip at the surface. If the men drop any part of the net, the tuna could escape. One by one, using hooks, the tonarotti jump into the water and wrestle the behemoths on board. Modern commercial boats rely on winches. Here, they use powerful arms, proud to keep an ancient tradition alive. The grueling work takes hours. The men are exhausted, yet no one quits. Landing the fighting tuna, the men duck and lunge. One wrong move could cost them a bounty, or worse, a dangerous injury. A tuna's flicking tail is a brutal weapon.
Sometimes it's a dangerous job. We're also dealing with fish that weigh 500 kilos. 300 to 400 kilos, they really have a lot of strength.
At last, after months of preparing, planning, and plotting the matanza, the 42-man Tunara team hoists up the final tuna, surveying the mammoth catch. Mission accomplished. This year, it's a good harvest. By the spring season's end, they expect to fish over 40,000 kilograms in total, gathered over as many as 10 more matanzas.
We try to keep our heads up. We hope that each year is better than the previous one.
But their jubilation's only temporary. Heavy commercial fishing elsewhere around the world is destroying their livelihood. Aggressive fisheries harvest huge quantities year-round, decimating healthy tuna populations faster than the fish can reproduce, putting the bluefin in grave danger.
They use satellites, airplanes. They look for schools of tuna in the middle of the sea, and they enclose them with ships. Every season, they catch what we can catch in 20 seasons.
Like the tuna who once ruled these waters, the ancient Tunara may soon be extinct. Their only hope is that other commercial fisheries follow their example, taking in smaller bounties, practicing sustainable techniques.
There was a time not that long ago when bluefin tuna ruled the North Atlantic, and the Tunara fishery had little effect on it. There were so many bluefin that this relatively inefficient fishery did not threaten the populations.
Respect of the sea, respect of the marine life. If you don't have a little bit of passion for the sea, for the tradition of the Tunara, I don't think you can do it.
But in a cutthroat competition across the Atlantic, hand fishing remains a personal obsession. The world's top catfish noodlers vie for the ultimate victory, bragging rights, and the biggest Whopper. Now, as the Oki noodling tournament hits the home stretch, controversy pushes rivalries to the breaking point. 4:30 p.m., June 30th. Just 3 hours left till the weigh-in at Bob's Pig Shop. After hours of torrential rain, competitors finally get the break they need. But as the sun shines down on these Oklahoma waters, tensions also heat up. One of noodling's biggest disputes comes down to technology, namely scuba. Though some grabblers use full-on scuba gear, others, like passionate noodler Don Brewer, go lower tech. In his boat, Don runs an air compressor hose directly to his diving mask. But no matter what the gear, for purists, any noodling tech's a no-no.
The people that scuba dive noodling in our contest, yeah, that's a sport. I don't deny that it's a sport, but whenever you've got to come up, catch your breath, go down there, get a hold of this fish, get it precisely how you need it, and you're coming up all within one breath, to me, that's more of a challenge than somebody can go down there for 30 minutes and sit there and rub on a fish and tickle a fish and play with the fish.
But Don Brewer insists his risks are all too real.
For those people who think it's cheating, they just need to try it. Put 30 pounds of weights on you, jump off 15, 20 foot of water, then catch you a fish that weighs 80 pounds and try to swim back to the boat with it. Tell me how hard it is.
A past trophy winner, Don wears his love of the sport on his sleeve.
My wife got this for me for Valentine's Day, and I get a lot of recognition out of it, especially when you go to the noodling tournaments. Everybody thinks it's awesome.
Strapped with diving gear, this modern-day grappler pushes noodling tech as low as he can go.
You get to fish the holes that nobody else is fishing.
Don targets a promising rock bed about 4 meters down. He takes the plunge. But high-tech help only goes so far. Successful noodling takes strength and skill. The smooth surface above is deceptive. Deep below, Don slogs through murk and mud, trying hole after hole. Finally, after nearly 20 minutes, sucking compressed air and lugging kilograms of heavy equipment, a jackpot. The noodler rushes towards the boat with a catfish longer than his arm. As he pulls it free, it's a monster. A serious contender. But Don's disappointed.
I'm never satisfied with what I take, not unless he weighs 60, 70 pounds.
On board, Don adds it to his growing stash of live fish. Will one of these whiskered whoppers take top prize?
Right now I got worries. You know, I'm just hoping everybody else had as much trouble as we did.
Each year, by the light of a full or new moon, curious thrill seekers flock by the thousands to witness one of the strangest mating rituals on Earth, all for a fishing free-for-all caught barehanded.
Crowds go crazy, they always have a lot of fun, but again, it's the fish is the main thing. That's what draws everybody down here.
Cabrillo Beach, San Pedro, California. High tide, 10:20 p.m. Armed with buckets and flashlights, they wait, scanning the waters for signs of one of the most peculiar adaptations in all of nature: fish mating on land.
They fertilize the eggs, they pop up, they go back to the ocean. That's amazing.
Grunion spawning and fishing season has arrived. Silvery, small, and slippery, the grunion fish is native to a stretch of Southern California coast. Prized for food and sport, these wily fish are hard to catch, except when they spawn.
They're very fascinating because they do their thing out of their natural habitat.
Like clockwork, on chosen nights from March through August, thousands of grunion mate simultaneously in wriggling pairs. But unlike most fish, they do it out of the water, on the beach. And like finicky romantics, they'll only couple after a full or new moon.
We actually can predict what nights and what time of the year the grunion may show up.
This year, the host of this peculiar party is nearby Cabrillo Marine Aquarium. Aquarium Programs Director Larry Fukuhara is a grunion guru.
What we're going to be doing is we'll be hatching grunion eggs. Let me show you.
Year after year, he marvels at this strange species' behavior.
Fish belong in the water. Okay, then all of a sudden you start thinking of fish coming out of the water. That's fascinating.
Grunion predictability is an ancient phenomenon, as is this unique way to catch them barehanded. For centuries, Native Americans hand-fished grunion by intercepting their mass mating ritual on shore.
You'd be surprised, it's not easy to catch grunions by hand, it really isn't.
10:22 p.m. The grunion runners watch expectantly. With a forward rush, the crowd lets out a scream. In an enormous shimmering blanket, the grunions surge onto shore, engulfing the sands. As the frantic hand fishing begins, with each wave, female grunion flick and arch, half burying themselves in sand. Male grunion then wrap themselves around the waiting females. As she deposits her eggs, he deposits his sperm. For a fleeting moment, they're exposed together.
They're out of their element. That's when they're vulnerable. Their mind is somewhere else.
The scramble continues as these grunion runners grab at any fish they can. Just as suddenly as they arrive, the spawning grunion catch the next waves back into the ocean, leaving their eggs buried deep behind in the sand. Around 10 days later, the eggs will hatch, releasing grunion larvae, or hatchlings. Though many eggs and hatchlings fall prey to predators like birds and larger fish, the annual mating ritual ensures the species' survival.
How many babies survive after they go back to the ocean? Maybe 2 out of the 3,000. And that's enough, though, to keep them going.
On shore, as the chaos subsides, the grunion grabbers compare catches.
I got a whole bucket full. This is my first time.
Most have caught only a few. The grunion have successfully spawned by the thousands. And thanks to human error, no amount of frenzied beach grabbing can endanger grunion populations. These delicate fish face a much greater threat from beach erosion, pollution, and shoreline development. Marine biologists hope these harmless hand fishing excursions increase awareness of the species and help save it from extinction.
We've been doing this for years and years and years. Catching by hand is a safe way to make sure the population continues.
It is really cool. I mean, you just grab down and if you got one, you were lucky. I mean, my shoes are sopping wet, but that's okay. I had a great time. There it goes.
7:30 p.m., Halls Valley, Oklahoma. It's been a tough 24 hours with relentless rain, lightning storms, and raging rivers. Now, for America's top catfish grabblers, it's the moment of truth. The annual Okie Noodling Tournament's grand finale. Time to see who's caught the biggest whopper barehanded.
Oklahoma, here we are again. The 8th annual world's largest noodling tournament in the world right here in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma.
Grabblers carry in catfish by the truckload, gathering with fans, friends, and families for the weigh-in at Bob's Pig Shop.
Somehow, some way, they got down there and caught them. I don't know how they did.
I think they might be a little better than we are.
I think they're crazy. I think that you basically have to have been dropped on your head to that kind of thing.
Competitors watch the judges closely. After a day and night spent noodling, they've pulled up colossal catfish, big as their own children.
We play hardball when it comes to noodling.
Don Brewer.
I think we'll place.
We were just happy to catch fish.
It's the guy that's got the best opportunity on the day with the fish that's in the hole that day. It's not a matter who's number one, who's number two. We're all good. We all love what we do. We all love our sport.
The crowd gathers at the podium for the results.
Now, what you've been waiting for, the biggest fish, 60.2 pounds. Chad Lamb, where you at, man?
Winner of the day, Oklahoma noodler Chad Lamb, with a whopper as big as a bathtub, weighing in at 27 kilograms. For visiting Missouri grabblers Howard Ramsey and Gary Webb, they lost the trophy, but it's been a reminder of their quest to make noodling a national pastime.
Eventually, we're going to have a hand fishing season in Missouri.
Grabbler Don Brewer's partner Dennis took second place in the stringer category, the weights of 3 catches combined. But for Don, it's been a chance to push noodling technology to the edge.
I was down there on one of our favorite holes, 12 to 14 foot deep. We caught a lot of fish, but we didn't catch what we wanted.
And for local legend Lee McFarland,
Second runner-up stringer at 120.2. Lee McFarland, where are you at, my friend? Lee is the man.
it's been a celebration of a passionate family tradition. And the noodler remains committed to what he sees as the true value of the tournament and the sport itself.
I mean, it's you one-on-one against Mother Nature. It's not really about winning, it's not really about losing. It's a thing about a bunch of noodlers getting together and let's talk about it, let's keep the sport alive.
Around the world, they pit themselves against some of nature's most incredible creatures. Showdowns with powerful predators, intense competitions for sport and food, and mad melees of man versus fish. Dedicated and determined, they carry on traditions old and new. All for the extraordinary thrill of fishing adventures on Caught Barehanded.
I got it.